And the information knowledge, merely the knowledge which is given to you, take it for yourself. Quran Sharif that not to be played, and I would recommend all the brothers and sisters to close their eyes and rectify the intention and connect to Allah Azza wa Jal. Jazakallah.
Explore. Work like a family.
सोहना आया रात सुवार दी है रब भाग जगाया रात सुवार दी है रब भाग जगाया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया क्यों गिलमा हो रवे गुलदस्त बना दे नूरी मलाइक भी जन्नत पे सजा दे जन्नत पे सजा दे अरशां ते रब सोने अज जश्न मनाया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया सोहना सुवार दी रब भाग जगाया सब विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया वल्लैल दिया जुल्फा तू अख मस्तानी हैरान ज़माना होई दुनिया दीवानी होई दुनिया दीवानी वेख के मुख अनवर अज चन शर्माया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया रात सुवार दी है रब भाग जगाया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया शफात महशर नू आका दी अता होवे सकलेन फरूकी दी मकबूल दुआ होवे मकबूल दुआ होवे रब खत्म नबूवत दा सर सहरा सजाया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया घर विच आमन दे अज सोहना आया रात सुवार दिहाई रब भाग जगाया है सोहना आया है अज सोहरा आया है सोहरिच आमद दे अज सोहरा आया है
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما كثيرا مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد القونين والسكرين والفريقين من أرب ومن أجم. First of all, we begin with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal, and we send durood and salam upon the best of creation, Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And also I send salam upon all the people in the audience and everyone online. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always good to be loud in your salam. So when a person gives you salam, even in normal life, you should never be shy to respond loudly, not like Assalamu alaikum, like a mouse. This is what many people do. Rather to be loud that you'll know, because what you're saying is, may peace be unto you. You see, many people these days, we forget, rather than sending peace unto people, we do the opposite. We will have a lot of animosity and jealousy and hatred in our hearts, whereas salam is an eradicator of this, if you know its meaning, if you know its application. Many times in our salah consists of certain salams, and that is why when you understand this truly, there is a better effect onto the person's heart. And even the latter, so assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, it's a dua for the person. So you're praying for the person. I notice now a lot of the time is that we skip this part where really what you're doing is you're giving a prayer to that person as well. You're helping that person. You know, one thing we forget to do a lot of nowadays, we forget to pray for people. Always pray for your colleagues, your friends, your family. Never forget to pray. It's very important that you pray for everyone around you. If you see someone doing well, you pray for them to have more. It removes jealousy. If you see someone not doing too well, you pray for them to do well. It removes ignorance. It removes pride. That is the beauty of this path. Is you are slowly but surely working on eradicating certain diseases that are in the heart. I'm not going to sit here and act like I am perfect. But one thing I will try to do is, let's just get this phone off. You see, this is one thing, is that some people do not understand and keep on ringing after one time, two times, three times. The person should understand that. But anyway, so we move on. That's why in the etiquette he mentioned turn the phone off. So that also applies to me as well. I have to turn the phone off too. You'll see sometimes, you'll see many shaykh, many pious people, many righteous people who will sit in a similar type of position. But what they want to do is they will be focusing on getting served, focusing on getting served. But the reality is the real pious person and the real person of piety is the one who serves. Even to smaller degrees, wherever one can help in terms of setting up little things, eradicate. So they are working in tandem against the opposite evil quality. Because I could sit with arrogance and act like everything should be prepared for me, put on a plate for me, but I don't like to live this way because I am not perfect. But one thing I will try to do is give off a good message, a simple message. It's not something that I have learned over the years from our mashayikh and teachers, is that it is a part of serving. It's not a part of being served. You will understand this. Many people, and that is why it has led up to this discussion today, inshallah. Like I always say, it's not a class of, it can be a class of where we try to motivate you, we try to encourage you. You get a lot of stories and stuff. But one thing is, when you come here, even if you learn one speck of knowledge, grasp on it, take it away, and act upon it. Even if it's only the smallest thing, even if it's just the very first thing I mentioned regarding the salam, take that away. Because it's an application process throughout everyday life. Today, the discussion is, how do we identify the evil of nafs and shaitan? Now, when you hear these words, nafs or shaitan, a person might become confused. What's a shaitan and what's a nafs? Shaitan is the entity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that whispers into your heart and entices you to do bad deeds. Like sometimes even I say this, you might never have a thought of doing a certain sin. Yeah, your whole life, you never done anything, you never drank alcohol, you never gone out or anything like this. But randomly, the thought has come into your mind about doing these things. Where does it come from? It's come from shaitan. Because the nafs has not experienced such things before. Now, where's the duty of the nafs? The nafs is to manifest that whisper, manifest that feeling, manifest that thought. Now, what will happen is, the nafs doesn't have a mind, doesn't have a body, doesn't have a heart. It's just a thing that is there, that is in the lower part, the lower self, as they call it. And shaitan will feed that. Shaitan will feed this nafs of new ideas, new sins, new ways of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The nafs will manifest it, and the nafs will enjoy it. Because deep down, there is no real enjoyment in these things. In drinking, smoking, going out, mingling, etc. There is no enjoyment in these things. However, shaitan presents it very beautifully. He presents the idea that this is something that is good for you, something that you'll get a buzz off, you'll enjoy. But what we tend to forget is that the nafs will only want more of it. It only wants more. The nafs is like a crying baby. The moment you give it one chocolate, it wants 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You give it one toy, it wants more. You give it anything for that matter, it wants more of it. However, this path, what the path of tazkiyah is, you might have heard of it, the path of purification is to subdue and to block this nafs, to stop the feeling that is residing within it, to cut off the bond between, because all that is just imagine, there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's you, and there's all the evil things that exist in the world. What's happened is you've changed the order. The order has become confused. You've put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nafs, then you. Now, what is, I think Brother Adil was here, the very, very last gathering, mashallah. This is the first one publicly advertised. I'm talking about the last one we had advertised. We had it, remember, had it at Auntie's house, and we had the whiteboard. We drew on it very clearly what we had. This bayan, I don't think you've watched it, have you? It's one of the ones we all listed. Number one, we had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there. Number two, we had ourselves and the nafs. Now, many people ask, what is the reason for a sheikh? What's the reason for a guide? Without having a training structure to practice, to subduing that nafs, you will never ever free that nafs. Never free that nafs. That nafs will always be chained by desire, by want, by need. You will not understand it. You will think that this is you and you are the nafs. That is its greatest deception. That you are at one with the nafs. You are at one with the nafs. That is its greatest deception, to make you think that that is you. And you'll see people, in normal day-to-day life, you'll see the person who, say, for example, a person might say, I'm a drug addict, or I'm an alcoholic, or I'm addicted to gambling. He will feel that that is him. Those personality traits and those characteristics are him, where really the nafs has fooled him. That's not him. He is really the spirit and the soul and the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, that is directly attached to him. So that's just a little bit of background with regards to the shaitan and nafs. Now, in the middle, what you are supposed to do, and this is helping advice here. The sheikh is there to help you practice alleviating that desire of the nafs. Why? Is because when you attach yourself to a teacher, it limits this profound nature that you found yourself to indulge in sin. There is no guarantee, by the way. Just because a person has a teacher, there is no guarantee. There is effort that is required from the person in between. He can't just expect that. Otherwise, it's so like a Christian mentality that they believe Jesus died for their sins. So what do you believe? Are you going to inherit a certain type of nature that you believe that your sheikh will die for your sins? This is what we see very commonly. Or my sheikh said this. I will say it openly. If that sheikh had so much power, he should be able to take you to Jannah. But that's not the role of the sheikh is not to take you, not to just you take bayah with him and that's it. That's not the purpose. Otherwise, who is the greatest sheikh of all sheikhs? Who is it? Who is it? Who could tell me? Brother, you don't have a guess. It's easy question. Prophet ﷺ. They're the greatest sheikh of all sheikhs. There's no sheikh higher than the Prophet ﷺ. Just because they don't have a title of sheikh, but they have other titles like Imam al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Anbiya. They are the prophet of prophets, the leader of the whole of mankind. They are the sheikh. They are the teacher of teachers. You hear this? Sheikh means ultimately one thing is the teacher. So it's the Prophet ﷺ. They're the sheikh of sheikhs, but people were still munafiqeen in that time. There was still a lot of hypocrisy, more hypocrisy than today even. How is it that the Prophet ﷺ was unable to guide them? But why is the belief now that there are certain shayukh that with only bayah you can be safeguarded from the hellfire? This is false. And it is very common in our Pakistani and Indian and Bangladeshi communities. Our societies believe in this. Or put a taweez on, read this word, have this picture in your wallet, do this and do that, and that's it, you'll be safe. Where's the guarantee? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ never said such things. Have a sheikh, have a guide, but don't be fooled. At the end of the day, you're still a human being. You still have the power to think for yourself. And that is what has led me on to say to you is that Hypocrisy, sincerity. What are these two things? They live on opposite ends. Hypocrisy, we just talked about it, meaning in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a lot of hypocrisy. They would pretend to believe, they wouldn't really believe. They would actually go behind the back of the Prophet ﷺ and tell, say for example, there was a war, and they would go out and tell the opposing army that there was a war taking place and this is how they were going to set up. So strategically try to, even then they would still lose. Majority of time, the opposing army would still lose. Now, what is sincerity? Brother West mentioned in the beginning. He mentioned the one part of sincerity in the beginning. Can you remember what you said about sincerity? Can you remind the brothers what you said? Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember. Go on. Yeah. That is sincerity. To be nothing. As though when you do something, it is free from contamination, free from any influence from the nafs. That is part of sincerity. It's not entirely it, but it is one major portion of it. That when you come to this gathering, you shouldn't think, I'm going just for my friends, or I'm going for the thingy. No. To truly benefit, even if you do not learn a thing, to truly benefit is to believe that you are here for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal. That's it. There is no more. That is part of the maximum reward you can obtain. That is the first step. You're entered into the dome of receiving the benefit. That domain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qurban, yes, you have entered that. Whether you receive it or not, Allah knows best. But it's very possible because you're in that area, you're in that domain. Last week we discussed about certain deeds will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will grant you Jannah. But what will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself? Sincerity, entering into that domain. Being present, being mindful, being aware. That is that domain. It's not a joke that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about zikr and fikr and self-reflection and internal being objecting to yourself, understanding the internal, your thoughts, your heart, your mind, what truly goes on inside. They call it self-observation in modern terms. You go to like these big, one time I heard Ustaadh mention our blessed teacher mention people that some people will pay thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to learn how to speak properly, learn how to have good manners, learn how to be thankful, learn how to be forgiving. Thousands of pounds people will pay. And because it's free, people don't value it. Because it's free, people don't value it. Does the desert Arab value the sand? No. But will he value the rain? Yes, because it's rare. Because it's few and far between. Because you're there, because it's free, we don't seem to understand it. We don't seem to value it. But I'm telling you, the people who throughout the history of time who have valued the path of purification, wallahi al-azim, those people are on the lips and tongues of thousands and thousands and millions of people throughout the generation. People praying for them, people thinking about them, people thanking them. And they'll say, why? Some people will say, like you got the other end, they will say, why go to a sheikh? Why go to the graves? Why go to these people? Just how that person, if their father was to pass away, they will go to the grave and pray for that person because they feel that their father has served them a purpose, have given them a value. Whereas the mashayikh of the past, what they have done is, nowadays, I think we take things for granted because a lot of things have been compiled into books and been placed onto the internet that we don't seem to read and don't seem to honor. But let me tell you is that, say for example, this book, The Path of Muhammad, Tariqat Muhammadiyah by Imam Birgavi, written in the 16th century. What's that? 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, around that time. This wouldn't have been compiled. This might have been one book, but now it might have been printed into 50,000 books. Now 50 more thousand people have access to it. Whereas before, maybe 10 people valued it and had access to it. And the people who would sit and learn, they would honor from it. They would be blessed from it. That we are learning from the lives of the awliya Allah and their teachings. I'm trying to help you to understand and realize what we're trying to get at here. Value your teachers, value your mentors, value those people who are prepared to teach you the way and the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and take you to a guide and complete you. Because without your deen, without your iman intact at the time of death, what are you expecting? Are you expecting ease? Do not be fooled. I'm telling you now, too many of our youngsters are getting clouded. The judgment is becoming clouded. They're thinking that we can live this life. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse as years are going on. More and more people are being sucked into the vacuum of shaitan that he's created. We do not seem to understand where we're at, where we're going, what we're doing on this earth. If I were to randomly, one time there was a lot more people when we did it in the mosque. Alhamdulillah, one point, a lot more people were in a gathering, and I asked one random person. I said, "What are you doing here on the earth? What are you doing here?" Oh, I think I'm here to because it's a mosque. Yeah, just think about it. Yeah, because we sat in a mosque, because it's in the masjid, and you've been asked a question. You think, right, okay, I've got to give a response based upon what he's looking for. Yeah. Let's break it down here now. Because the scenario is the brother's in a mosque. He sat on a masalla. Around him is Allah's name. You got pious brothers around you. His response is in accordance to all of that. Yeah. Now put him in school, yeah, around his teachers and his friends and his colleagues. What's your purpose of life? Completely different. It is, isn't it? You're in work. What's your purpose of life? Depends who you're speaking to. If it's in a big audience, no one's going to say. I doubt many people will say it. But the simple answer is, deep down, at least embedded inside you. And alongside this comes a lot more. It's not just pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, that is one. But there's ways about it. So by pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will achieve such a things. Good adab, good akhlaq, good character, good personality, very open, very giving, very warm. Your personality will adjust. Whereas if you say to a non-Muslim, "Oh, my life is to please, my goal is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala," he's not going to understand, is he? Or how can you believe? How can you please that? Then if the situation arises, based on this, I will achieve this and this and this and this by going about it this way. The answer is done. So, mashallah. It says here in the book, hypocrisy and sincerity are apparent to be influenced by shaitan. Therefore, it is well known the temptations, tricks, and deceptions and doubts suggested by shaitan, and the necessity of fearing their influence and ways to avoid them. So, just to summarize what I've just said, number one, I'll give you an example. Do all of you watch football? Do you all watch football? Do you know how football works? Do you know? At least simply, you have to understand there's two goals on each end. There's a pitch and there's teams and there's a referee. Yeah? And there's rules. Okay. Now, put it this way, yeah? Recently, we had the Champions League final, yeah? Chelsea versus Man City. You put it into context, one team is a lot more stronger than the other team. I know one team's had 20 managers in the last 15 years, and the other team has had a lot of stability and they've been quite successful, yeah? And they, over time, they've been performing quite well. Team's been around there for a long time, yeah? Chelsea won the game based on the tactics they inherited, that they would score and they would defend. But on the counter attack, they would go, which means that some thought went into it. The guy never said, right, boys, go out and have fun. He never said that. Right, it's a calculated risk. If we do this, this is going to happen. This player will cut inside. This player will do this. This player will do that. If you leave this player free in the box, he could do this. Or watch, counter runs and whatnot. This fullback cover this area. When it's time to attack forward, make sure, etc., etc. Yeah. I've not watched the breakdown, but I've not even watched the game, to be honest with you. I'm just guessing. I've not actually watched the game. I watched the highlights for like 4 minutes. And yeah, so I can assume that this is how it went down when I looked at the stats. And one manager, right, I was like, you see, they had one player. Everyone's heard of N'Golo Kante. He was able to run around. He's got like a stamina of like 50 players. Yeah, he can run around and go in and out. Yeah, he can put about 20 tackles a game. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so he was the go-to guy. He was the man of the match of the game, and he played the best. So let me give you a scenario. You're in a position, yeah. You've got two groups of friends. One group of friends, that they're gonna go to shisha, they're gonna go chill with girls, they're gonna go do such and such a thing. Then you've got another group of friends, yeah, they're gonna go to the majlis, and in your life that's gonna benefit you at some stage, inshallah, it might improve you. But the more enticing thing is to go with the other friends. Or I'm gonna have a laugh. No one's gonna be on my case. No one's gonna be telling me right from wrong. No one's is saying good is bad. No one's is saying halal, haram, this and that. Because that's the trick Shaitan's given you, to believe this. They're gonna tell you off. You're gonna feel bad. If anyone who's feeling bad now that I've done something wrong in my life, that's not the purpose. This should be your thought process now. I need to change. I need to adjust my life. No one's saying, right, wake up tomorrow, put a turban on, put a jubban on, go to mosque, pray 5 times a day. Yeah, mashallah, this is good. But no one's saying do the instant change. If you can, mashallah, do it. If something you need to work on, then work on it over time. You will be assisted in doing so. You shouldn't feel like, I'm so bad, I'm the worst person in the world, I'm evil. Just because you come to a gathering, that is not the whole purpose. If I'm making you feel like that, then I am doing my job, then I'm doing this wrong. But all I want you to do is just to understand. That's all I want you to do. In your own mind, to understand where I'm coming from. That's all I ask from you today. So we give you the thingy, the temptation, the tricks, deceptions, the doubts, all given to you. Every time Shaitan comes at you with something new. Before Ramadan started, and we mentioned that during Ramadan, yeah, it's weird how this happens. What I'm about to mention. Before Ramadan, you've got your set routine of sins. If you're in a normal living style, if you just do your normal things, you got normal set routines of sins. Okay, I wake up, I'll have a shower, I'll go out, do whatever I do. But in Ramadan, yeah, for some reason you'll adjust that lifestyle. It actually sometimes for many people it becomes worse. It becomes the worst thing. So instead of getting better in Ramadan, they get worse. Because what's happening is it's like a polar opposite. You see, if it's not being filled with light, it'll be filled with darkness. If it's not being filled with light, it'll get filled with darkness. Without the presence of light, what is it? It's darkness. It's simple science. Our eyes require light to see, just like our iman requires light to be pious. The light of good deeds, the light of good iman, the light of all of these things. Why is it in Ramadan we get worse? Because instead of filling our heart with goodness, we fill it with nothing. So then the nafs be like, because the nafs is not being locked up, the shaitan is being locked up. Nafs is still present inside you. Nafs will remind you of all those things that you probably forgot about. The sins that you never ever, even you thought, oh, I'm done with them things now. Nafs will start to remind you, oh, do you remember that? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Oh, remember how good you felt doing this? Do you remember how good you felt doing that? That's the nafs will kick in then on overdrive. Oh, remember this? That was a good buzz, that wasn't it? Then you're thinking, after Ramadan, nah, I'm going to do that. Shaitan comes in then, and guy slips off a slippery slope. He's only brought it upon himself. No one created this. You created the nafs created this in scenario itself. Over time, you do learn to even defeat this obstacle. What time we're on? We have to be able to identify whether the influences that affect us are evil or are benefit origin. This knowledge enables us to distinguish right from wrong. The influences may be external or internal. It is more difficult to analyze interior influences because exterior influences are more obvious. We've talked about your friends. You've got one portion of friends, one group of friends, and another group of friends. What do we say when this happens? It's quite simple. You cannot identify internal diseases without the means or the mode of a sheikh. You cannot understand this. Without the means of a sheikh, you cannot understand the internal diseases that are developing. Just like in a garden, say outside, you will get weeds growing. Why do weeds grow? The wind will blow, and then the seed will plant itself into the grass, and weeds will grow out. And you can't cut your grass properly, you can't do anything properly because there's weeds present in the grass. Just like with this, only the sheikh can identify where the true deficiencies are. You can self-analyze to some extent, but you have to be open to criticism. You have to be open to doubt and that, oh, maybe I am not so good, maybe I'm not so pious, maybe I'm not so good at everything. Maybe I am quite jealous, maybe I am quite bitter, maybe I am arrogant. When these thoughts start to occur in your mind, there the sheikh will intervene and help you overcome these problems. Understand one thing here today, you should all understand. One thing you should all take away. Three things, inshallah. We've only covered a short portion of this, inshallah, but I don't want to keep it too long. You should take away a minimum of three things from the topic we've talked about. Firstly, is being sincere in all your actions. All your day-to-day activities should be sincere. Secondly, you should understand the role of the nafs and shaitan, what they are there to do to you. They are not there to help you. And shaitan, many people think that he is stupid or he's an idiot. He doesn't know. Let me tell you, he dealt with people like me, he dealt with people like you before. This is nothing new. He has taken people from touching the surface of high-ranking walis to the worst of the worst, to the sinners, close to the devils. And we use the story of the Ghulam, the Mirza Qadiani, them guys. He was given a 40-year plan by Shaitan, developed a 40-year misguiding plan that he would slowly give him certain traits in his heart that he would end up becoming worse. The third thing I want you to understand is whatever you do, anything you do, simple or difficult, you should know and understand that whatever I do, is it good or is it bad for me? And if you don't know, you ask. There's the solution to your problem. If you don't know, you ask. That's it. Simple as that. Inshallah, if you take these three advices, you will be able to easily make simple decisions in your life, inshallah, that will in the future have a massive benefit um, to yourselves, inshallah. So just before we end, if anyone has any questions, inshallah, then you can ask before we move on to the zikr. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? A question? Okay. He's moving his fingers. I got a question. Sometimes, just to mention, there are random moments. You might think, oh, shaitan does a lot of damage. Shaitan does a lot of damage. I've talked a lot about shaitan doing a lot of damage to a person. Then where does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come in? Where does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come in? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes will directly influence you through the means of angels, through the means of people, through the means of your friends, through books, through random acts. Someone dying could be a sign that you need to change. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fadl will fall upon you, something randomly will occur in your life that I need to do something about the way I am. That guidance, that high level guidance, will only take place if you're in a position to receive. Just imagine, even Ustaadh one time, a couple of years ago, in itikaf, to give a bayan how to make dua, and they even to such an extent they showed us how the hands should be raised. You get people doing this, yeah, like this, or like this, or whatever they do, like this. How does a beggar beg for money? How does a beggar beg? How is his hands? You can't put money into hands like this, or like this, or like this, or like this even. So much so that they even describe that just your hands should be facing forward, just like slightly open, like this, like as though you're begging like this. And your hands are ready to receive. Even the way you hold your hands have effect on you. By doing this, Ya Allah help me. This is like this. That if anything was to come, you're in a position that I am ready to receive. So that's just the last thing, inshallah, I thought I'll mention. Then, when the moment comes, fadl, guidance will come randomly. You will meet, the mashayikh, the ustadh. You'll meet people who are able to assist you and guide you and help you. But before then, you could sit in the same room as them people and think that they are nothing, that they are just like me and I am just like them. But really, they are the people that will change your life for good. Sitting with them, being with them, that sohbah is vital to their spiritual development and spiritual growth, inshallah. All right, we will end here, inshallah, and we will move on to the zikr. Jazakallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.